What if the richest families in America were not just lucky or brilliant or uniquely disciplined, but simply using a strategy so powerful and so invisible that it lets them live tax-free, die tax-free, and still pass mountains of wealth to their heirs without paying anything close to what the rest of us do? What if everything you have been told about wealth building is only the surface-level explanation, and the real system was engineered decades ago to reward the people who understand one simple truth? You do not sell wealth, you borrow against it. And here is the part nobody wants to say out loud. Borrowed money is not taxable. The IRS cannot tax a loan. That one detail turns the entire financial world into a game that only the wealthy get to play. Because while the average person spends their life trying to pay off debt, the wealthy use debt to avoid taxes, build empires, and escape the rules that everyone else follows. Have you ever wondered how billionaires report tiny taxable incomes while living impossibly luxurious lives? How they buy aircraft, real estate portfolios, and massive companies, and still show the government almost nothing? How their net worth grows while your paycheck shrinks, and how they always seem to come out ahead, no matter how chaotic the economy becomes. It is not magic, it is not luck. It is a blueprint that has been growing and mutating in the shadows for over 50 years. Before we go deeper, drop a quick comment about where you are watching from. This community is growing fast, and I want to see how far this message is traveling. And if you want the unfiltered truth about how money really moves, go ahead and subscribe now. You will need it for what is coming later in this story. To understand how this borrow until you die system became the secret backbone of modern wealth, you have to go back to the moment America rewired the entire concept of money. In the 1970s, inflation was eating the country alive, prices were jumping, wages were stuck, and politicians were looking for any solution that did not get them thrown out of office. Wall Street stepped in with a seductive idea: make borrowing the engine of the economy, make credit the fuel, make debt the new definition of growth. From that moment, everything changed. Asset prices became more important than wages. Financial products became more profitable than actual production. Stock markets became the heartbeat of the entire economy, and the wealthy realized something enormous. If assets never stopped growing, they would never need to sell anything. And if they never sold anything, they would never owe taxes. Sound familiar? The 1980s arrived with a tidal wave of deregulation. Banks were unleashed. Risk became a business model, not a threat. Credit flowed like water. Entire companies were bought using borrowed money. Corporations discovered stock buybacks. Investors discovered leverage. And the wealthiest families in America discovered something revolutionary. They could take out gigantic loans against their assets, live off that borrowed cash, and report nothing to the IRS. As long as they never sold their assets, no taxable event ever occurred. Sound familiar? By the 1990s, the real economy was shrinking compared to the financial one. Wall Street was turning everything into a tradable product: mortgages, student loans, corporate debt, even risk itself. That is when the shadow banking world exploded. A place where the future price of almost anything could be gambled on, multiplied, repackaged, and traded again. And then came 2008, a financial collapse built almost entirely from the reckless use of debt. Mortgages given to people who could not pay, banks leveraging their bets to insane levels, hedge funds creating synthetic collateral out of thin air. When the system crumbled, it should have reset everything. It should have punished the architects of the disaster. But you know what happened? They were rescued. Every major institution that caused the collapse was saved. And in that rescue, the derivatives market became even more powerful. The wealthy walked out richer than ever because the government effectively guaranteed their assets would keep rising. That is the moment when the borrow until you die blueprint evolved from a loophole into a global strategy. It fused with the derivatives market, creating a cycle that could inflate assets, create cheap credit, and shield elite families from taxes forever. Here is the twist most people do not know. This strategy only works because wealthy individuals connect their assets to a system that multiplies their value artificially. They do not rely on actual growth. They rely on the inflated numbers created by derivatives and financial engineering. If a billionaire has 10 billion in stock, they do not sell it. They walk to a private bank and borrow 2 billion, 5 billion, sometimes more. Their interest rate is often under 2%. Sometimes under 1%, and because it is borrowed money, they owe nothing in taxes. The bank loves this arrangement because the billionaire is considered low risk. Their assets keep rising. The bank gets interest, the billionaire gets unlimited spending power, the IRS gets nothing. It is circular, it is elegant, it is dangerous, and it all traces back to one moment and one decision that opened the door to this system. when the derivatives market was allowed to grow into a monster without meaningful regulation. You will not believe the name associated with that pivot point, and the receipt is wilder than you think. Now here is how the mechanics really function when you strip out the myths. The derivatives market lets financial institutions take an asset, like a stock worth $1 billion, and create contracts tied to its future price. These contracts can be traded for 10 billion, 20 billion, even more. As of now, the derivatives market is estimated at around $600 trillion. None of this represents real products or real labor. It is bets stacked on bets. It is value created out of expectation rather than reality. But this illusion has a very real effect. It inflates asset prices. And when assets inflate, the wealthy get richer by default. Imagine a tech billionaire holding $4 billion in shares. Now they are worth nearly $5 billion without doing anything. The billionaire walks to the bank and says, "Lend me $2 billion against this portfolio." The bank says yes instantly. The billionaire pays an interest rate that is lower than what most people pay on a car loan, and the IRS stays completely out of the loop. This is where the wealthy separate themselves from everyone else. The middle class sells assets, the poor sells labor. The wealthy borrow. They maintain control of everything they own, and they unlock tax-free liquidity whenever they want. And here is the sinister part. They never plan on paying it back. When they die, the step-up in basis rule erases the capital gains taxes that were never paid. If someone bought an asset for $1 million that is now worth $20 million, the heirs inherited it $20 million. No taxes on the $19 million in gains. Meanwhile, the billionaire had already borrowed millions against that asset during their life. The debt gets covered by life insurance or quietly transferred into the trust. The IRS gets nothing. The family keeps everything. Here are some numbers to make that clearer. In 2021 alone, the top 0.1% avoided around $163 billion in taxes using debt-based strategies. And here is the most unsettling truth. Once a family locks this strategy into a trust, it becomes almost immortal. Assets inflate, loans create liquidity, death wipes out taxes, and the cycle repeats. It becomes a private financial ecosystem that never interacts with the one you live in. The wages economy, the consumer economy, the taxed economy. This system is not designed to collapse, it is designed to extract. But its weakness is the same fuel that keeps it alive. Leverage. If asset prices fall too fast, the collateral behind trillions in loans disappears. Banks panic. Markets freeze. And if you want more unfiltered truth, hit subscribe now. You will want to be here for the next chapter, because the next storm is closer than anyone wants to admit.